Hey everyone, my name is Wedge and welcome to the ManaSource Tournament Review. This weekend brought the largest constructed Grand Prix of all time to Richmond, Virginia. 4,300 people competed in this modern tournament. As expected, we learned a couple of things about the format. 1. Birthing Pod is really good. 2. Birthing Pod is definitely the opposite of bad. As the previous passive-aggressive comment may suggest, Birthing Pod stole the show with 5 top 16 finishes. 1st, 4th, 5th, 7th, and 8th. 4 of these pod decks were based around the hilarious interaction between Melira Sylvok Outcast, Viscera Seer, and Murderous Redcap. The combo lets you sacrifice the Redcap to the Viscera Seer over and over again, dealing infinite damage. It's pretty good. The rest of the deck was pretty standard across the table. There were Linvalas, Ranger of Eos, Revelarks, and more to go along with Birthing Pod. There are a couple differences worth mentioning within these lists. First, Hall of Famer Luis Scott Vargas played another combo in his Melira Pod deck. He chose to include Spike Feeder and Archangel of Thune. You remove the counters on Spike Feeder to gain life, and that triggers the Archangel. Infinite life, pretty strong. The second big difference in these decks was the 5th pod deck. Instead of playing Melira Sylvok Outcast, Brian Liu, the champion of Grand Prix Richmond, chose to play Kiki Pod. Kiki Mirror Breaker is a 5-mana legendary creature that lets you create tokens of other non-legendary creatures. The reason why he's so good is because he has haste. Using Kiki as a win condition makes this deck act like Splinter Twin a lot more than you'd expect. The main difference being that it's much more resilient to combo hate since it doesn't need Kiki to win. To utilize his ability most effectively, you play either a Restoration Angel or Deceiver Exarch, use Kiki to make a copy, flicker Kiki with the Angel or untap him with the Exarch, then just do that over and over again. Since all the tokens you create with Kiki have haste, they attack for 1 billion the turn you go off. This version of Pod is known to go off a little bit faster than the Melira version as you don't have as many combo pieces to accumulate before you can go off. In addition, the quality of creatures in the deck is just better. To place at a Restoration Angel trade pretty favorably. Next up we have Affinity. Taking 2nd, 3rd, 11th, 12th, and 16th, this hyper-aggressive, high-synergy deck barreled its way into Day 2 in large numbers. On the surface, Affinity seems straightforward, but there are a ton of interactions you have to look out for. The deck relies on accelerators like Springleaf Drum and Mox Opal to rush out potent threats like Etched Champion, Arcbound Ravager, and a massive pile of artifacts to support Arcbound Ravager. The deck board vomits all its artifacts within a few turns, hoping that the Ravager can eat all of them for a quick kill, or that Cranioplating will destroy everything in 1 or 2 swings. This deck was pretty well positioned. It functions well enough against Blood Moon to run some of its own in the sideboard. Turn 4 wins are always the threat, so keeping up with combo decks is possible. It also has a great matchup against Pod, especially Game 1 where you ramp up your threats much faster than they do unless they have the perfect draw. I can't emphasize enough how well positioned this deck was. You can expect to see way more Ancient Grudge, Shatterstorm, and Steel Sabotage going forward. As everyone expected, next up is Splinter Twin. Variations of the strategy took 6th, 9th, 10th, and 14th. The 6th place version was more of an old school classic in that it just ran blue-red, no splash color. The deck relied on the usual to win. Deceiver Exarch and Pestermite, accompanied by Splinter Twin and Kiki make for extremely fast combos and turn 4 wins relatively consistently. The rest of the deck is designed as a control shell to protect the combo. Cryptic Command, Lightning Bolt, Remand, this is all stuff we've seen before. Another version of the strategy played this weekend was Tarmo Twin. The deck runs pretty similarly to the other twin decks, but splashes green for Scavenging Ooze and Tarmogoyf to present more board presence. It's also a little more aggressive in its spells, running increased amounts of Flame Slash and Gataxian Probe. The final version of Twin was White, Blue, Red. The white splash allowed for Wall of Omens, Restoration Angel, Path to Exile, and Celestial Colonnade to see play. This version is much more proactive, cutting down on all counterspells except 3 Swan Song. These spots, of course, reserved for full play sets of the Wall and Angel. Now for some fun stuff. In 13th place, Scape Shift. I know, I'll let that sink in. This is the modern version of Valakut. The deck uses Search for Tomorrow, Explore, and Sakura Tribe Elder to ramp lands out very quickly. The point of the deck is to get to ideally 8 lands, cast Scape Shift, sacrifice all your lands, then bring in 2 Valakut the Molten Pinnacle and 6 mountains. The triggers from the Valakuts go off simultaneously and boom, more than enough damage to kill your opponent. This is a combo deck, but it's much slower than others. Let's explore this a little. The rest of the deck is all about staying alive to get to your combo. Cryptic Command, Anger the Gods, Lightning Bolt, and Izzet Charm all help to do this. The reason why people chose to play this deck is because there's very little interaction with the combo itself. Lands are tough to deal with. There isn't a lot of very good land removal in the format right now. Fulminator Mage does exist, but it's hardly a 4 of in anyone's list right now. Obviously you can interact with Scape Shift, but the deck runs 11 counterspells. It literally just cares about Scape Shift. Incredibly hard to interact with and can keep pace with most strategies. No wonder it did well. The last deck we're going to look at today is 15th place Blue-Black Fairies. Yeah, it's back. With the unbanning of Bitter Blossom, it was only a matter of time before someone brought this deck back. The strategy functions much like a control deck. Spellstutter Sprite and Vendilion Click are both great control creatures alongside Snapcaster Mage. You have late game damage and control with Mistbind Clique. The rest of the deck is all about disruption. Go for the Throat, Inquisition of Kozilek, Mana Leak, Thoughtseize, the list goes on and on. It's a deck just filled with hate. It wins by playing Bitter Blossom, making a bunch of little fairies, sticking a sword on one of them, and attacking until you die. It's a glorified blue-black control deck, but much scarier and way more resilient to combo. Pretty well positioned for this tournament. While we did see Birthing Pod take 5 of the top 8 spots, I think the format is still incredibly diverse. Pod is great, but so is Twin, and Control, and Scape Shift, and Fairies, and apparently Merfolk, and Ad Nauseam, and Affinity, and Black-Green Rock, and Zoo, and Bogles, and Storm. Okay, you get the point. There are going to be a lot of people calling for Birthing Pod to get banned. Be patient. The format is growing and changing so quickly. Give it a few tournaments. Everything could change next week. I don't know about you, but I expect some awesome things out of Modern this season. Did you watch the coverage this weekend? Did anything surprise you as being particularly good or bad? Leave a comment below and we'll talk about it. As always, subscribe for the latest and most reliable Magic the Gathering information you could ever need. This is the Mana Source. I'm Wedge. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.